Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Dick, for, I think the last time I was supposed to speak, I had avoided his phone call so many times because I was nervous about doing it that I had to make public amends right before I spoke last time. So this time I was like, I sign up, I'm doing it. So I didn't have to do that this time. Yes, thank you, that's growth. That's growth for me. This place, I've told this story a million times, and yet I don't speak anymore, really, except for here. And this is the place that has my heart, and these are the people that I just fell in love with when I had the incredible opportunity to work here for a couple of years. And so I love being back here, and I feel like it's hallowed ground. You know, you can definitely feel God's presence here, and just lives that are being changed. And so it's an honor to be here tonight. So I am from San Antonio and raised in the typical hypocritical Christian family where, you know, we screamed and yelled at each other all the way in the car until we got to church. And my father was a pastor or a worship leader at all the churches we went to. And so all the screaming happened in the car. And the second we got to church, it was, praise the Lord, good to see you. We're here, yes, to worship God. And I started to learn kind of from an early age how to fake it on the outside, and how to put the smile on, and how to look good on the outside and say the right words so that people really didn't know the pain that was going on inside. And you know, just now looking back, I understand just the hypocrisy that was going on there, and yet it's something that stuck with me for a long time. So I went to private school for 10 years, and during that time, you know, I'm learning about God, and you got to memorize the catechism questions, and who made you? God made me. What else did God make? God made all things. Why did God make you? God made me and all things for his glory. You know, bleh. I became just this robot. Sorry, it is all true, God, sorry. but I became a robot. I had it all memorized, you know, and about 14 years old, I find that just this hole that's in here that we all have, it's the one thing. It doesn't matter what you use to medicate it, we all have it. And just the darkness that was in there. And about 14, I found alcohol for the first time. And I remember drinking and just going, oh yeah, I'm doing this for a long time, you know, because I was funnier, I was prettier, I could flirt with the guys I had been nervous around, I could talk to the girls I was jealous of. I mean, it's the liquid courage, it's the stuff that it works. And so I stayed at private school for 10 years, and then my junior year I transferred to MacArthur. Go Brahmas. Thank you. Yeah. And I immediately gravitated to the party crowd. You know, God forbid I go from private school to the quiet student council group or anything like that, but that's not who I'm attracted to, right? And so I start dating the head of the party crowd, so I am very cool as soon as I get there. The end of my junior year, though, the head of the party crowd broke up with me, and I was devastated because I thought we were going to get married. I had written his name on all my binders. I mean, it was like, wait a minute, that is legal. That means it's you and me forever. And when he broke up, it was just this emptiness, you know. So I set out that night just to get lit. I knew what I was doing. I don't know if you've ever had those nights where you're going out to blot it out, and you know what you're doing. And that's what I did. And next thing I remember, I wake up in the hospital with my jaws wired shut, a trach in my neck, staples all the way down my stomach, a feeding tube, and both legs in a cast and my arms tied to the bed. And I had no clue what happened. And what I'm told happened is that I was in a blackout and my friends couldn't handle me anymore, and so they brought me home to my mom. My mom and I get in a fight, and I got in the car and I hit a telephone pole right off Harry Wurzbach, going about 45 miles an hour. I bit the steering wheel. So I broke my palate. It was hanging. I shattered my nose bone from the inside. I bit off my bottom lip, ripped my cheek, broke my TMJ, broke ribs, lacerated spleen and liver, and my Achilles tendon on the left foot got stuck in that thing that moves your seat back and forth. And then the dashboard dropped here, and I broke the tibula and fibula there and dislocated that ankle. So it was a bad day. You know, that wasn't the plan. You know, my head, before I went out, said, let's just blot this out. let's just get right, you know. I had no intention of, hey, let's almost die. You know, I was in 18 hours of surgery just getting put back together. And, you know, I can't explain what my family saw, you know, and now that I'm a mother and can only imagine what my family had gone through, you know. And the crazy thing is, after learning to walk again, after being in the hospital 3 months, I get out of the hospital, and the malady and the darkness is even bigger, because once I saw my face, like they had, anyway, it was really bad and about the size of a pumpkin, and I didn't want to be alive anymore, and so drinking is exactly what I was going right back to. And so my friends threw me a party for getting out of the hospital from a drunk driving car accident. You know, some of y'all might have friends like that. They're like, hell yeah, you lived, let's do it again. So, I mean, I'm drinking. My trach hole isn't even closed yet. I've got gauze over this hole in my neck, you know. I'm missing 4 teeth, so I'm drinking beer and squirting it where the teeth are missing, doing party tricks. I'm grabbing magnets off the fridge and clamping them to my face where the metal clamp is to show how cool I am. I mean, this is insane. And my poor family just going, wait a minute, you know? But this is what we do, right? Well, maybe not all of us, but this is what I did. And, you know, I went to Southwest Texas, or Texas State now, which, you know, crazy, let me back up. When I went back to school my senior year, kids can be very mean, as you know. And the rumor going around school was that I had slept with so many guys that night that I was exhausted and hit the telephone pole. And I was like, okay, do I want to be a drunk or a slut? You know, it was just like, it was a tough call. But they made fun of me, and it was awful. And I had played volleyball and sports my whole life, and I couldn't play sports anymore. And just everything had been taken from me. And so just senior year, it just kept getting worse. And so I go to Southwest Texas, mainly because I took the SAT on LSD, thank you, and the dots were moving everywhere, and so I scored high enough to get into Texas State. But I finally thought I had found my people. You know, it's a party school, they drink, I'm going to fit right in. And I took it one step further and I joined a sorority, which is hilarious because I'm a poor white trash tomboy. I've got no business, oh my God, in a sorority. But I did it. I wanted to fit in. And so I put the outside thing on, like, oh my God, I totally fit in with you, girl. And lived in a sorority house and just did that whole thing. But looking back, you know, before we'd go out, I'd be upstairs chugging beers and taking shots just to get right, to get the courage to walk out the door to try to be like these girls, because I wasn't. And I was different. Something was different, you know. After 2 years, I dropped out and came back to San Antonio, and at that time met my first ex-husband. I have to label him for you, you'll understand in a minute. My first ex-husband had just gotten out of the penitentiary. He had done 5 years straight, alcohol and drug charges. I knew he abused women. I knew he sold drugs. I knew he didn't take care of the 2 kids he already had, and he was all mine. You know, some of you ladies over here might have fought me for him. I know we think alike. Anyway, so my delusion was, you know, this is what I need, and so I hook up with this monster, and I had done cocaine a little bit at this point, just snorting it. But again, something's different with me. We're doing a small 40 between 4 people to play cards, you know, and I'm, you know, it's time to go to bed because they got to go to work the next day. And I'm revving it on my drinks. I'm chewing baggies. I'm licking CD covers, you know, just, you know. Something's different. Something's different. And what it was, it's that allergy. It's kicking off in me. It's not, are there normal cocaine users? I don't know, but they were able to stop and go to sleep and go to work the next day. It affected me different. And so when I meet this guy, he was a crack dealer. Shout out for crack over there. Woo woo. I mean crack bad. Sorry, crack bad. Sorry. Anyway, so I got turned. We started smoking that, and I call this stuff devil poop because it stole my soul. Anything that I had left, any morals, any convictions, anything left of me as a woman, crack cocaine stole that from me. And you know, at the end of 6 years, he's almost killed me 3 times. I'm 40 pounds underweight. We've pawned everything, and I've got nothing, and I just want to die. And I ended up getting to a treatment center in Center Point, Texas, to get away from him. He was the problem. I don't know if you've ever gone to treatment because someone else was the problem, you know, but my head wasn't exactly right. I get there because he's the problem. I need to get away from him, I'll be fine. And so I run away, and you know, within 2 days of being in detox, you know, I'm starting to look for a date. You know, I'm trying to find him, you know, because that's what I do. I will use anything to treat what's wrong with me. And so I took this poor guy hostage and spent my whole 30 days stalking him, you know, and did nothing to treat what was wrong. I didn't listen to anything that they said. I focused on this guy, and I get out of treatment, and I lived there in the hill country for a little while, and I stayed dry for about 60 days. And I remember looking in the mirror the day I relapsed and going, all right, girl, we can drink. Just don't smoke crack. Come on, we can drink. I don't know if y'all have heard that before, but it's a lie from the devil, right? And I'm looking at the scars on my face from what alcohol did to me when I'm telling myself this. This is the insanity of this crap, right? And so I drink that night, snorted Coke that night, so I was like, good girl, you know? Like, since I didn't smoke, I was so proud of myself. But the crack came like a month later, and that started a year-long relapse and just another nightmare. And during that year, husband number one went back to the penitentiary. We had nothing anymore because we'd pawned it all, so it was an easy divorce. And then I had time to meet husband number two. He was living in a men's halfway house there. I was in a kind of a sober house. I was smoking crack in my sober house. He was smoking crack in his sober house. So it was love in the hood. It was another healthy start. I just thought he was cute. I didn't even think, oh my God, that's probably a good idea. And so that started a 6-month run with crack cocaine that I didn't even know existed. I thought it had been bad before, you know, but just like the book talks about, it gets worse. It never gets better. And at the end of that run, I remember just crying out to God, going, if you're even there, I need your help. Because see, that's the craziness. I had all this God stuff in my head. I believed in it, but I hadn't had any kind of experience around it. So I assumed, you know, because growing up, there was a lot of talk of hell, right? And there was a lot of, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. And so if God really could see all that I'd been doing, I'm definitely going to hell. And so my prayer was, if you're even there. And yet, he was. And some of y'all have experienced that. You didn't think this God would love you anyway because of all you come with. And yet you are starting to find out that his love runs deep, and it doesn't matter where you've been or what you've done, because you're here right now with another chance. You know, and I walked into my first Cocaine Anonymous meeting January the 11th of 1999. As you can tell, that's not my sobriety date, so the story continues. But I ran into people or women in there that were talking about the big book, and they were talking about the demoralization and stuff that they'd done, and it was just like, me too. You know, and their life had started over again, and so I got encouraged, and I started working the steps, and I was just blown away with what the 12 Steps has to offer, and fell in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. And about a year and a half into my sobriety, I found out I was pregnant, and so that's always a good time to get married. You know, it's just like, it sounds good. And so we got married when I was 9 months pregnant with number two. And I had no idea how my life was about to change, because here I am, I'm sober, I'm sponsoring women, I'm starting to just really get what the program has to offer. And now I'm about to become a mother. And, you know, when my son was laid in my arms, I didn't know this kind of love existed, you know, and it was an amazing experience just to feel. I never thought I could get pregnant. I thought, to me, that was a punishment from God, that this is what's going to happen because of all the bad stuff he'd done, because all I ever wanted to be was a mother. And so as Ethan was laid in my arms, it was just this, wow. And it's changed my life. So about 3 years, or maybe about 2.5 years, or about a year and a half later, I got hired on to work at a treatment center in Hunt, Texas, and I start sharing the steps with people and teaching the steps, and I start getting asked to speak I ended up going to, Denmark, Iceland, London, Canada, all around the United States. And I remember in Denmark, these girls came up to me afterwards in their broken English, just saying, your story, that's amazing. We've been listening to you. We heard, and I'm just weeping, just going, God, how did you do this? I'm just a little crackhead from San Antonio. How did you do this? And I'm in awe of what God's done. That's how it started. And for about the first 4 years of my recovery, that's what it looked like. But the Bible talks about, and that's the favorite big book for me, that pride comes before the fall. Anyone ever heard that or experienced it or said it to yourself? Years go by, and at about 8 years sober, I had divorced my son's father. He also struggles with crack addiction, and couldn't stay sober, and I had to make the rough decision on what to do there. So I divorced him, and so it's just Ethan and I. And at about 8 years sober, I started taking pain pills, because I got some pretty serious chronic pain from the car accident that I was in. And as I've gotten older, the arthritis has gotten real bad. And so they give me Darvocet. And I talk to my sponsor about it, I pray about it. I had no experience with opiates, never done heroin, and so I had no idea that this was a dangerous thing at the beginning. But then I read the bottle after taking it a little bit, and it says take 1 to 2 every 4 to 6 hours. And I somehow flip that around, and it's take 4 to 6 every 1 to 2 hours. And so I start just chewing a little bit more, and it's like, whoa. That turned into getting Norcos, and that turned into going through all that prescription and needing another doctor, and that turns into having 3 doctors going and trying to get stuff on the internet. I mean, it became a nightmare, and I got to experience what opiate withdrawal feels like, and it was hell. It was absolute hell. Mind you, I'm still working at that treatment center. I would chew about 10 Norcos before I'd go in to teach second and third step to help these poor people who were suffering find God. It was awful. And the lie I kept telling myself was that I've got chronic pain. And it was like, yeah, but look what you're doing, And anyway, the delusion was that I'm fine. Everything's fine. And then the day came when I finally drank. And, I remember thinking at that moment, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to change my sobriety date, which was crazy because I just told you I'd had 2 years of a nightmare with pill addiction, and I couldn't get through the delusion that was relapse also. So I drank, and within a month, I'm having to take shots in the morning of Bacardi to get the shakes down, all before I go to the treatment center and teach the steps to these clients. That was a double life, and the shame and the guilt and the pain, it was unbearable. And then Halloween 2009, we were coming down, Ethan and I were coming down to San Antonio to meet with the family down here to do trick-or-treating. And my family found out that I'd been drinking, and they were really scared, and they weren't going to have alcohol at the house, which my family's all normal. I'm the black sheep. Woo woo. So they were going to hide the alcohol, and so I decided that I should have a big drink before I leave. All right? Next thing I remember, I'm coming to my son screaming in the back seat, "Mama, I told you to quit swerving." And apparently what I did was I hit another car, a truck. And I could have plowed through kids. They were all trick-or-treating, And needless to say, I was taken to jail, given a felony DWI for a minor. Did you ever having a minor in the car with me? But if we'll go back for a moment to me telling you about my son being laid in my arms, right? And that was the biggest gift God had ever given me. And now because of this disease, I've almost killed him drunk driving. How does this happen, I get out of jail, and guys, CPS calls, and they say, "We're taking your son." I was like, wait a minute, it was just one night. Just trying to talk my way out of it, and it wasn't happening this time, and they took him and they placed him with my ex-in-laws, and they said, you need to go to treatment, and it was just, got it, I'm gone. And so I went to treatment for 30 days. I could teach treatment, and so I basically did it standing on my head. Nothing changed in here. And I get home, and, I think I was taking pills again within a month of getting home, and to CPS, I'm acting as if everything's fine because I'm so good at doing that. And they gave me temporary custody, or they gave Ethan back to me for a temporary spell. And I'm drinking. And my ex-husband and I, his dad, got in a fight, and he could tell I was drunk, and he called CPS. And they took him for a second time. I'm good, thank you. They took him for a second time, and as they're taking him the second time, it's kind of like a, wait, Mom, don't you love me? They said if you quit drinking, I can stay. You must not love me. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever been in that before, whether it's children or relationships or people you love so much, and they're just looking at you just going, stop. And yet I can't. The only thing to shut up the voices in my head that tell me what a horrible person I am and what a terrible mother I am, the only thing to make that go away is to drink. And I can't not drink. I wanted to die. Guys, it took me 2 years to get sober again. Bless you. CPS case got closed. I did what I do. I smiled and looked good. It got closed. I got my son back and kept drinking and put him through so much hell. Only things probably he remembers, because I don't. And, on September 15th, 2011, I don't know what was different about that day, but it was literally just like something was, because I was the really cool, fun party alcoholic who would be hiding in my closet, chugging 4 Locos, woohoo, yeah, this was high class with my pinky raised, or having box wine and trying to squeeze the bag with the spout, and I'm in my closet, and he'd be outside the closet going, Mama, please don't be drinking, and just, it was a nightmare. And so something inside me shifted, and I know today that was God just saying, Dunk, it's time for the plan to begin, because nothing was different that day, nothing. I cried out for help. I ended up going to California, and this time it was totally different. It was like, God, I don't know where this started. I don't know what's going on, but I want you to tear me apart. I want you to find those dark hidden places where I never let you in before, because I don't want to be this woman. And guys, I went to a women's trauma center. They knew that if I didn't finally go deal with some of the heavy stuff that I'd been through, that it wasn't going to work. And the first AA meeting that I went to, it was on the 3rd step, which that's the step I used to teach at the treatment center in Hunt. And so this person's chairing the meeting on the 3rd step, and my ego, because remember I've got like 2 days sober, my ego's going, this guy's doing it all wrong. Why isn't he talking about line 43 on page 72? And then it was like, shut up, you're 2 days sober. Yeah, but he's doing it wrong. You need to speak up and share your knowledge. And it was like, shut up. I mean, it was this battle. And I don't know if you guys know about this battle that's going on inside of us. This is real. Spiritual warfare, whatever you want to call it, guys, good versus evil, it's in there. And it starts up here. And so for me, it was a daily battle just to keep fighting. And my case manager had me write down, because it was so ugly up here, she had me start writing down on paper the horrible things I was saying to myself. And as I wrote them down, it was just, oh my gosh. And then she took it a step further, and she said, I want you to picture yourself at 3 years old. And I had this picture of this little girl with pigtails. I had 2 black cats that I named Wilbur and Wilbur, just so they'd both come if I called them, but they were huge black tomcats. And so I've got this picture of me with the black cats, just hanging over the arms, and I'm just smiling. And she goes, would you ever say those horrible things to that little girl? Would you ever tell her she's a failure and she's stupid and she's never going to make it and that she's horrible? Would you ever say those words to her? And it was just, no, of course not. But that's what I was doing. I was beating up this precious child of God that he'd created. I was tearing her apart. I was my worst enemy. Just like the beautiful reading on the forgiveness. I mean, that's where it's got to start. And so I started to have empathy and compassion and forgiveness for myself. By the time I left treatment, I couldn't talk without crying because I was so filled with God's love. And that sounds cheesy. I know it. I get it. But I'm serious. I just wanted to love everybody. I wanted to pour it out on anyone that would come around. And when I got home, I knew I was ready to make a difference. It was like, okay, God, I don't know what you got for me, but I'm excited, you know? So while I had been in treatment, I'd broken up with another unhealthy relationship I'd been in who'd been bringing me pills and alcohol, and it was just very sick. I broke up with him, which meant he wasn't going to pay for my car, so my car got repossessed. He wasn't going to pay my rent, so I was going to be evicted. I didn't have a job anymore, so my health insurance had been gone. I had no money when I got home, no car, eviction notice. Ethan was back with me and scared to be around me, didn't know exactly what to trust, and yet I knew I was going to be okay. You know, it's like you do not know what the plan is when you leave here, but if you've got that in there, just a knowing that God's got you. I mean, he's got a plan, a hope, a future, all these things. And for the first time in my life, I experienced that I came home to everything falling apart. No one wanted to be around me anymore. My family was done. They didn't trust that I'd really get it this time. And poor Ethan, you know, we lived in an apartment complex, and every time I would say I was going to go to the store, he would just start tearing up because he knew all the lies I'd done before, and I would hide the alcohol and all this, so he'd want to look through my bags, or he'd be playing football down there with his friends, and I'd be on the balcony, and he'd be up there to be like, "Are you drunk?" And it was like, no, not this time, but it took action. He had to see that when I came home, I really was sober, or that when I went to the store, it showed in my action. And many of us, we believe that just telling our family, "I'm sober, I'm good," is going to be fine, but then we're still going to treat them like crap, or we're still going to lie to them, or we're still, that's showing that we missed the boat. Something's not right. I had to show people that the new Alicia was real, right? And so about 2 weeks after getting home, I'm still not sure how any of this is going to work, and yet my probation officer calls me and he says, "Hey, guess what? There's a warrant out for your arrest." Because see, I had the breathalyzer in my car, and apparently you can only be using mouthwash so many times when you violate on that thing, you know. And so he said, "There's a warrant out for your arrest. You're going to have to go turn yourself into Kerr County Jail, and you'll be out, you know, in 2 days." It was like, okay. So my poor son, I had just gotten home, and now I have to tell him, "Mommy's going to jail." You know, that was not a baby book moment that I put in there, but I drive to Kerr County. I park in the front row because I'm getting out in 2 days. That didn't happen. 2 weeks later, oh my gosh. Okay, so I've never been to jail except for that one night when I was drunk, and I'm in there just bawling. And there's some tough chicks in there that are going to TDC for their 4th time, and they're like, "Suck it up, you're going down." I've seen this on lockup. I know, you know. But I would go out though. Something had changed in me in treatment though, right? It's like my faith had totally changed. Here's the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, and yet I'm out there playing handball by myself in my scrubs, you know, just singing this praise and worship song going, "God, I don't get this, but I trust you. I don't understand this, but I trust you. I'm scared, but I trust you." And guys, when I got out, and had to show it for court, they were going to give me 6 months, that I needed to go to jail for 6 months, and instead they gave me time served for those 2 weeks I had been in there. And I'm in the back of the courtroom just weeping, just going, you knew that, you know. And it was the first time in my life, guys, that my faith was strong when everything fell apart. Because I don't know about you, I do really well with praise the Lord until something goes wrong, and it's just like, "You don't love me, where are you?" And so this was the first time that I had to get, it was amazing. And that began my journey. The day I got out of jail, I get a call from a guy who ran a ministry called Pay It Forward Ministries. And he goes, "Hey, I hear that you just got out of jail." And sounds like you'd be great for this job. But he asked me to come down here, and so that was my first introduction to Haven for Hope. I only had 90 days sober, and I got to start working working at Pay It Forward and running the Next Right Step. And man, I fell in love with the people that I met, hearing the stories. And it was a Christian ministry, so I could share about Jesus and my love for Jesus. Hearing guys come in and they've got the bags with them. All that they've got is right there. They're trying to get in a sober home. And I will never forget this one man telling me his story, that he was a pastor's kid from North Carolina. And he had come down here trying to get away from that family and ended up on crack down here and was living under a bridge. And then he moved, and God found him a better bridge to live under, because across the street was an NA meeting and a place where he could shower, and that he'd been sober for 2 months because God found him a better bridge to live under. I mean, I would leave here every day just going, I am so grateful, God, for my life. And I fell in love with you guys. I got to work with the women in IHRP, and that's where I got to meet Carrie and Leslie and so many others, Paula. And, I remember the first time I got to be in there and share about CPS and what I'd gone through with Ethan. And as I'm walking away, I'm just weeping, because it was like almost everyone in there had CPS in their life, And for the first time I got it. It was like God was going to use this to help these women. And now it's no longer the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's the greatest gift that I have, because I can bring life and hope to women that are going through it, women that hate themselves, women that feel like they're horrible mothers. I've been there, and look what God's love did to me. Now I'm going to love on you. And it changed me. Because as a mother, there's nothing greater than the shame of hurting your child. Or as a parent, period, you know that. And so getting to love on these girls and going to see them every week, it just became the highlight. And after about 2.5 years of being out here, there was no more funding for my position, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And some weird way, a friend of mine had started a new treatment center, and I went out to just go say hi to her. I wasn't going to work in treatment again. And the owner of the treatment center was there, and I got to meet him, and he goes, I want her to run my sober living. And it was just, whoa, okay, I just got a job. And now I work at Sober Recovery, and it's the same thing. I mean, it's like, how in the world can you do a freaking application and write down what your strengths are? And I was like, well, I drank a lot, smoked a lot of crack, had CPS involved, but we're good now, had a felony, and they hire you. I mean, that doesn't work in the world, right? Except for in a place where that's your greatest gift. And guys, every single one of us has that calling. You think your story is about shame and guilt and what the enemy and the disease has tried to tell you, and it's not. It's about giving life to the next person. There is no doctor, psychologist, or book-read, book-taught therapist that can do what we can do. Because the second I get to talk to someone and these two words come out of my mouth, me too. Me too. When I say that, it changes everything. The only way these connections happen is with the spirit inside of me connecting with the spirit inside of you. And some of you thought that spirit was dead. Some of you thought there was no chance of coming back. Some of you didn't care if you came back. Guess what? God did. God knew when you were in your mama's tummy that you and I would be here right now in this room. That's the kind of God we know, guys. He has the plan. He has the love. He has the power. And it's our job to turn around and give it to the next person. You know, at about a year and a half sober this time, I read a book called Captivating. And I finally got through reading this book what Jesus did for me. And I love being able to speak here, because in some of those crotchety old AA rooms, you're not supposed to say this, but Jesus is what saved my life. I fell in love with Jesus. I finally got what he did for me. He was the knight in shining armor I'd been waiting for. He was the one that as they're about to put me on the cross because she's a slut and she's a whore and she's a drunk and she almost killed her kid and she lies to everyone and she steals and they go through the list of all of my sins, and all I can say is, yeah, that's me. And here he comes on the white horse and says, no, That's my little girl. Let me take her place. That's the God that I know. Do you understand? And our stories are a little bit different, maybe. Maybe they're different. But guys, that God is not different. No matter where we've been or what we've done. I get now to share this love with the clients every day. I get to try to do my best. And Leslie said she's never seen anybody not walk away from me different or something like that. But there's some clients that would probably be like, yeah, no, not so much. Because some days I got good days and I've got bad days. And that's the joke I've got. I am a hot mess who loves Jesus. I mean, there is no faking it today. The other day, we did a morning meditation, and it was on dishonesty, and one of the sweet clients came and got honest with me about something she'd lied about, and it was beautiful. That seems to be a pretty cool trick when you lied about something and you're holding it in and you know it's not right, and so you finally spill it and there's just freedom. Leslie had a big one. Corey's had some big ones. Just kidding. But that's what it's about. But I've seen the growth, though. It's like that moment, I know that God is up there going, yes! I don't know if he does that, but yes! She did it! Because the enemy, the dark side, wants you to keep that lie in there. He is the father of lies, and he wants you to keep that lie a secret. But God and the spirit inside of you is going, no, I'm telling the truth. And so I've seen this beautiful stuff happen. And so as I'm driving to work that next day, I feel blocked. I feel totally blocked. I don't know what's going on. And then I realize there's something I've lied to my husband about. And he calls like 3 times that day, and it's just like, I'm fine, good to talk to you, bye. You know? And then, hi, how are you doing? I'm fine, bye. You know? Because I knew I had to get home and go make that right. And what did I do? I went to work the next day, and I shared that with the clients. I wasn't like, hey, y'all may struggle with dishonesty, but I've got it figured out. Hell no. It was like, guess where I screwed up today? Right? And guys, as long as I keep doing that, I'm going to be sober. It's just how this thing works. You know, we have, husband number 1, thank goodness it's gone. He's only stopped me from prison 1 time. That's good. We have husband number 2, who we are still great friends and co-parent to our son. And then during that time, shortly after when I had read Captivating and fall in love with Jesus, and I'm just like, all right, God, if I serve you best single, I'm going to stay single. And then I'd be at church, and I'd be looking at the guy's hand next to me to see if he had a ring on. And I was like, But I started to realize, all I do is go to work and come home. And so I decided try this online dating thing. It's like, whatever, it's stupid. And so I get onto Christian Mingle, and I start looking through, and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of ugly Christians. And I get it, the whole attracted to their spirit thing and all that Holy Spirit stuff, but come on. So I left it alone, tried Match.com, went on a couple of creepy dates and said, that's it. Went back to Christian Mingle, and someone, a hot Christian, had sent me an email, so I was like, well, I'm going to open it. And it says, you cannot open unless you pay. And I was like, dang it. So I joke that I bought my current and final husband for $26.99. Because I opened the email. I opened the email, and of course it says, no need to respond. And I'm just like, wait a minute, I just bought you. What are you doing? But he lived 150 miles away. He's retired after 23 years in the Army. And, right, yes. But it was just like, hell yes, I'm responding, blah, 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 And so we started this dialogue, and bless his heart, the first time he actually called me, I spilled my whole story in like 10 minutes. And I was just waiting for crickets, or just like click. And instead, he saw the beauty in all of it. He saw the redemption story. He saw the beauty in the ashes. He saw the scars and thought they were beautiful. Because the God inside of me was shining out from all this. I wasn't trying to hide who I used to be. I wasn't trying to do anything. And he saw the beauty in it because God had been working on him as well. And our whole life has changed. This hasn't been easy. I mean, there's stuff that we go through on a daily basis. It's being unemployed or issues with our kids or whatever it is. I have 2 beautiful stepchildren now. And this has not been easy. But I'm so grateful to this man, not only for his service to our country, but his service to our family, his service to God. It's kind of the last time, one of the times I got to share my story, he had just proposed to me that night. And I got to share my story, and I was still working. Yeah, I was still working here, and my IHRP ladies were over here. And when I got done speaking, this one girl barely spoke English. She was like, "Bless you." And I mean no disrespect to her. I'm trying to do her accent really well, but she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're just like Cinderella." And it was. That's exactly what I felt like. It was like I was just like Cinderella, what God had done. Because here's why. The knight in shining armor had come in and changed my life. And so he brought me an incredible gift in human form, right? And now here we are. And the fairy tale is jacked, by the way. It's not easy, right? But I know that if I keep doing my best to love whoever is in front of me, whether that's my husband or the clients at work or whoever it is, even my enemies, if I keep trying to do that, I'm gonna be okay. And guys, you know, the precious little boy is now 15 years old. He's taller than me now. And this generational curse, this disease is trying to pass itself down. Exactly. Oh, hell no. You know? I tell you what, if there's ever been a praying mama who's standing in the gap, just going, no, you get your claws off my son. You know? This will not be passed down in the name of Jesus, you know? And I know that everybody who meets my son is just like, he's an amazing young man, because that's who God created him to be. Everybody, a stranger that he got to fish with at Port Aransas stops me and says something about him. I mean, it's just, I'm so blessed. And the healing that's happened in our life, after all we've been through, is only a testimony to God's grace and mercy. So guys, I'm telling you, I know you're tired. I know you feel like giving up sometimes. I know that this may be the 10th time that you're here at Haven. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The power of God is real. Jesus loves you no matter what. The enemy wants to take you out, but God has already won this battle. Now all you got to do is connect to him through the 12 steps, through the people around you, and then carry that message to someone else. Thank you all very much.